Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Short-Term Rentals with the one and only Tijani. Thank you so much for joining us
What's
today.
going on? Yes.
And today we're going to talk about laws and regulations, so kind of like a tricky topic right now. So when it comes to Airbnb or short-term rentals, what are some of the regulations that you have encountered in your career?
Oh man. Well, this is one of those things because in terms of regulations, I personally haven't had to deal with regulations per se because my units are in Houston. In Houston right now, there are no regulation that covers the entire city. But a lot of markets, and most markets actually, it's not so much that the city will stop you or there's regulations that'll stop you. The issue is more so the HOA, the
Oh,
deed
wow.
restrictions in those particular neighborhoods or those condo communities or those townhome communities. That's more so the issue. And when you have that, when you have that issue, multiple ways to approach it. But my approach and my recommendation is to stay away. Like I just don't go because it's not worth the battle to try to be somewhere that they really don't want you at. There are other opportunities. I always like to say I like to just go where I want it. You know what I mean? So if I'm going to a particular area and I know that I want to be in this property, but they have these restrictions and they won't, and I'm just going to look at their bylaws and say, okay, I'm gonna go where I want it. So now a lot of markets have came down with some pretty tough rules. The most popular one being right now in Atlanta, that came down recently with their ordinances, and it was interesting because you hear. I remember I don't know if it was 2019 or 2018. I saw a video where the mayor of Atlanta was talking about how Airbnbs are here to stay in
Oh, wow.
Atlanta.
And then they come down with those
And then
regulations.
come 2022, it was like, yeah, it's not even like it wasn't even like a restriction to restrict certain things. They were trying to get rid of Airbnb.
Oh, wow.
So in Atlanta, you can only have two max, and it has to be your primary residence. So really, you can only have one. You have to pay an additional 8% TOT tax, which is the transient occupancy tax, which is the hotel tax. Your neighbors have to be cool with it. You have to get written agreements from your neighbors. Your left,
From each
right,
of
there's one
them.
in front of you. You have to get
Oh, wow.
written agreements from them as well. And they limit you. And so you are in a position to where, your business is quite limited. And that's one thing that I don't necessarily agree with. And that's what upsets me the most about how hard they came down in Atlanta is the fact that I understand wanting to limit arbitrage, or even if you want to get rid of arbitrage. Because at the end of the day, when you arbitrage a property, that's one less property that somebody else can rent out traditionally. And everything's still based on supply and demand. So if there's enough pressure, then that means that rent price is going to go up even more. So I understand people's plight with rental arbitrage, especially when you have certain situations to where even though regular houses, these mansions they will have these massive mansion parties and disturb all the peace in the entire neighborhood and your neighbors are unhappy. I get that. We don't teach that. We don't train that. We don't allow parties. We don't do that. So what upsets me the most about it is the fact that now you're limiting people who are doing it right. You're limiting people who are actually trying to grow legit business. Why couldn't we come together to find a way to kind of get rid of the people who aren't doing it right, and the people who are just trying to just make a quick dollar on the platform that don't really care who stays at their property? Those are the troublemakers. And unfortunately, it's a lot of them, a ton of them. So that's why, and right now it's a close eye on everything because a lot of people are trying to see what other markets will do. Are they going to follow suit with Atlanta? But right now, there's still tons of opportunity. Matter of fact, most markets are very happy to bring that business. In Houston, for example, there's a TOT tax, the transient occupancy tax. It's the hotel tax.
Right.
The city takes a cut of that tax from
Oh, wow.
every Airbnb booking.
Oh, my goodness.
Every
Wow.
booking, the city makes a cut of that. And you think they're trying to stop that bag anytime soon? They're not. But if enough people complain, they will make a change, right? Because they do have to make sure that the city's happy. So there has to be kind of a medium ground. So that's why I'm keeping my ears to the streets. I'm staying very, very, very in tune with the city to see what's going on and making sure that I'm a part of that conversation if ever any deed restrictions were to come down the pipeline.
That's right. And we are so glad that you're actually training us on the right ways to run the business of short-term rentals because we don't want to be a bad host. We don't want to be a bad business owner within the community because then again, your business does depend on the community because they are the
Facts.
ones that are bringing also part of the experience to your future guests.
Facts.
So you mentioned how you're keeping your eye out on all of these new regulations that are coming out, but how do you find these regulations?
Yeah, so you can find the regulations in any market by your best friend, Google. It's everybody's best friend, right? So hit up Google. Just type in short-term rental ordinances, then put your city. It's going to take you to the right site, your county clerk site or whatever outside third-party site that was created to highlight all the short-term rental laws that are currently governing that marketplace. So definitely get on Google. Just type in short-term rental ordinances, put your city in after that, and you'll get to the right site for sure.
And with all your experience as an entrepreneur, as well as being a teacher for all of your students, what are some of the easygoing cities when it comes to like regulations for
Yeah.
short-term rentals?
Yeah.
Which cities in the U.S. do you think are the most welcoming?
Yeah, I wouldn't say base your market decision only on cities that are the most welcoming, right? Because there are other factors, numbers, profitability, like the who, like why would people come to that city? So there are other factors that are important. I wouldn't say stay away from properties or marketplaces, I should say, that have regulations. Because at the end of the day, regulations ain't bad. It's just that I just feel that they should be all the appropriate parties should be involved in that conversation. When it's so one-sided and you hurt and you alienate a lot of other people, that's when it's kind of not okay. And of course, those markets are a lot tougher to crack. Really, I wouldn't shy away from markets that have regulations because think about it. Regulations aren't bad. They're not bad at all. They actually are a good thing depending on what regulations come down. It it ensures that there's structure, it ensures that there are laws, and it weeds out people who are just tire kickers, right? So and it keeps the people that are trying to do it like a business, it keeps them in business because it increases the demand for them as well. So regulations ain't bad. Matter of fact, I'll employ anybody listening to go after markets that have some type of regulation established,
Oh, wow.
but it's still favorable for you to run your business. Because now you're in a place that has established regulations and that still allows you to navigate it successfully. That way you know that you'll always, very likely, 9 times out of 10, you'll be good in that city. And you won't have to worry about that unless something else might come down the pipeline in the future, but most likely not if they already have established laws. And so it's these markets that are wide open, honestly, that you need to be careful of. Because
Oh, wow.
Atlanta was wide open. And look what happened, right?
They are way too tight now.
Dallas was wide open, and now they're coming down with some stuff in Dallas that is still in talk. It's still a conversation right now, but they're having these conversations, and all of a sudden you have a wide open market, but now you have a market that might cause an issue to your business model. So it really does depend, right? But you would definitely want to do that research, but don't stay away from properties with regulations. Matter of fact, if it's regulated and you can still operate your business as a business, that might be a good market to tap into.
And are there any regulations within Houston right now that are actually protecting you as a business owner within short-term rentals?
So in Houston, particularly, since you asked about Houston, in Houston particularly, we're wide open in Houston. There's no regulation citywide that'll stop you from doing your business. What you need to worry about in Houston is not the city, it's really the neighborhoods. The HOAs, the deed restrictions. More HOAs are getting stricter. There are more harsher deed restrictions that might come into play that would, they have strict rules about short-term rentals and subletting. They might have it to where, hey, you can only do 30 night minimums.
Oh, wow.
Some might say, and these are just kind of honestly, these can happen in the HOA level or the regulation level for the entire marketplace. They might say, hey, you have to be a 30 night minimum, right? They might say
And when you say 39 minimum, what do you mean by that?
so the days, like you can only rent, usually like right now in Houston
just
or wherever, you
39
can rent
days.
how many days, or a day, 2 days, but like you have to do like 30 night minimums. That's like the minimum. They can't book anything less than 30 nights.
Oh, wow.
So you do monthly stays essentially, which in some markets, that's still very profitable. And you might have some markets that require you to get additional permits, which requires you to pay a fee every year, which is fine. That's okay. Is the fee, pay that fee, right? So, there are different things and different laws that might say that you can only rent out your units for a certain amount of time a year, right? They might limit the amount of people that could be in your property. So there are different kind of restrictions that can come down the pipeline. They might say, hey, if you want to do short-term rentals, you have to own it. You can't use other people's properties. You have to
You
own
can't
it.
do arbitrage at that
Exactly.
point.
You can't do
Wow.
arbitrage. So and regulations is another reason why the best hosts, the most dangerous hosts right now, are versed at all three strategies. They know how to analyze deals that they can purchase and take down to make a short-term rental. They also know how to analyze an arbitrage opportunity as well, but also know how to carry that kind of arbitrage conversation, and they also know how to carry that co-host conversation to take advantage of a co-host deal. Because say you're in a market that limits you for rental arbitrage, okay, then co-host. You have the skill, you have the infrastructure already, so why
That's
not
right.
partner with landlords? If okay, say I gotta own it, all right, I'm gonna go to the people that own it. I'm gonna partner with them. And I'm gonna just manage it for them. Then you can still build your co-host portfolio doing that, right? So that's why it's good to be versed in all three strategies. But that's why deed restrictions aren't that bad because there's still certain ways that you can navigate it to make money.
That's right. And if you have the three tools in your tool set, then you're totally set. No matter
Yeah.
what happens with the market that you're investing in, you can still keep looking into a short-term rental business.
Yeah.
You can still keep running it.
It's tough because when you look at what's happening in Atlanta right now, it's hard to say no matter what deed restriction come down because Atlanta, if you can only have one, you can only have one. You know what I mean? Now, for somebody who's a co-host, if I can only have one listing, then I'm gonna need a bunch of Airbnb listings just to grow my business.
Right.
So yeah, you can probably navigate it, but it's just probably not conducive for your business. It'd be a tough system to run, to manage, right? So I'd rather just go around one at that point. And it really is going to discourage a lot of folks who do it there. But you can imagine for folks who do have units in Atlanta, how much money they're going to make, how much more they can charge because the demand will be crazy.
That's right.
So it's always kind of interesting for that angle as well. But yeah, these deed restrictions, man, they can be very, very tricky.
So they always have their pros and cons, I feel like.
Absolutely.
For the people that are deciding to stay within tough cities such as Atlanta, they're still going to make some profit, as well as for the other people that decide to just move into another market.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to investing in other markets that are outside of your own market where you're living in, how do you go about finding those regulations on those areas specifically, even if it's an HOA? How do you go about finding that?
Oh yeah, so I mean, you first of all do the overall regulation check, see what's governing that overall market, and then say, okay, cool, I can operate, or maybe they have some permits that I need to get, or they have some regulations that I need to adhere to. Okay, I'm gonna adhere to it, and then that doesn't mean that deed restrictions, HOA won't be an issue. All right, so you identify a property that you want, you have to then do the additional research to see what the HOA laws are. If they have deed restrictions that could harm you, so you have to put that additional layer of research. And once you say, okay, I can operate here, then you run the play. Because sometimes because the market's good don't mean that your neighborhood is good. So,
That's right.
so yeah, that's pretty much it. You really have to go in and look at the bylaws of the HOA and see what they say about short-term stays.
You did mention, though, that it was a little bit tough how you couldn't participate in at least your voice, like you couldn't express your voice when all of these regulations were coming up. But I feel like that would be more from a city point of view. But with HOAs or neighborhood laws and regulations, can you participate as a business owner in these regulations when they're being made?
Yeah, you can and you should try. Maybe, I'm not gonna say anybody can in any of their markets. You don't know what, it may be a closed conversation. It may be a situation where, hey, they're not trying to hear from other hosts. They're already trying to make a decision within the city council themselves or whoever's making that decision. But a lot of markets, man, you can be in that conversation because a lot of times when you think about it, when the city council have ordinances or deed restrictions, they usually hold like these town halls. They want to hear input from people, you know what I'm saying? So you need to be in those conversations for sure when it comes to short-term ordinances. A lot of times when they are coming down with something, they're going to have a hearing. They want to hear from you, right? So of course it's still up to their decision, but a lot of times they do want to hear from you as well.
And I feel like it would be a perfect opportunity also for you to bring your network of other hosts that are in your area and be like, hey, you guys, there's new regulation that they're thinking about passing, but they're also doing a hearing. Why don't we all go and express our point of view as business owners?
Yeah, that's what we did in Houston. We started a coalition essentially, just a group that's keeping a pulse on things. I'm involved in it. So we have other hosts in the city that do big things, and they're involved in it as well. So we're definitely trying to be a part of that conversation.
And I feel like it definitely helps because as people in the city that are working for the city and making all of these regulations, they also want to see what you guys as business owners would think about it, because you guys are paying taxes to them. I mean, in the end, you guys are actually making quite a bit of profit for them as well. You guys are kind of giving them their cut. So being able to express your voice as well in those meetings, that's super crucial. So for all of you guys out there in our audience, if you are looking to make your voice heard, do your research and look for all of those hearings where your city is going to be passing new regulations, so you can make sure that you as a business owner can share your point of view on this. Thank you so much again,
Absolutely.
TJ. And thank you to our audience. We are more than excited to learn more about short-term rentals and all of these laws and regulations that in reality, they are not bad. They are there to protect you as a business owner. We're going to see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.